Have you ever been sitting there and suddenly you feel a weird sensation in your body? You look up what could be wrong and you're convinced that you've got brain damage, cancer, Alzheimer's all at once. This is a pretty common scenario that Jim and myself, Ennis, we get all the time. So here at Inner Solutions, we have lots of clients. We help them with various inner challenges that they're going through, and health anxiety is a massive one. It's so easy to get freaked out, especially these days when it comes to your health, the sensations that you're feeling in your body, and all the information that is available nowadays. It's just a recipe for disaster. So in this video, we're going to get into all the different things that can trigger health anxiety, the common ways that it shows up in you, and most importantly, what you can do about it to feel better and to stop scaring yourself because you're okay. So in the first part of this, I'd love to get into some of the, common beliefs. Maybe the most common one is that deep down, people feel like there's something wrong with them. Have you ever had a client with that?
Yeah, I've had lots of clients with it. Sometimes it's based around physical sensations and that triggers a panic attack, and it's relative to panic attacks. And other times it's that they have symptoms of anxiety. They've been to the doctor doctor says they're clear. They don't know what's going on. So they go on the internet, and what's happening is it's the placebo effect, but in a negative way, that they're having a negative result from what they're reading on the internet. So they look at, I have a weird pain just in top of my stomach. That could be some simple indigestion or just some anxiety symptoms.
Could be anything.
It could be anything. And they go on the internet and read, and they just identify with whatever they read.
Yeah, usually the worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm. And so that's a common behavior that will manifest in health anxiety. Beyond that, there's other blocks to health anxiety, or really turning that subjective filter that our mind can do into a more objective filter, into what's the more likely situation. And it can be a deeper subconscious part of them that wants something else, that feels like if I'm sick or if I'm not well, that maybe it'll usher in some care or some love or something like that for me. So the way that the body and mind are wired are to want to manifest those, manifest what they want in that way.
Yeah. So if you feel like, okay, there's something wrong with me, then that might give you attention, love, care. And so you may just get obsessed with something and to make it seem like there's something wrong with you. Now, maybe that is not the case for you. Maybe you just have a lot of weird situations in your life, a lot of symptoms, and you feel like you've permanently damaged yourself. We get a lot of clients who say, I did this one drug a long time ago, or I did this one thing a long time ago, and I'm convinced that it gave me brain damage, or I'm convinced that it gave me some kind of permanent disability. And this is just rarely the case. It's almost never the reason why you're feeling that way. And if you have it to the point where you're just convinced, you're going to get caught on that word almost. Like, oh, okay, well, almost means that 1% of the time it is the case, so I'm that 1% of the time. No, you're probably not. If you really, really are convinced, go to the doctor, get all the tests you want to get done. Highly recommend that for anyone with health anxiety. You've probably already done that. If you're watching this video, you've probably already been to the doctor several times, and they've told you that you're okay, you're safe, you're fine, there's nothing wrong with you. Now the trouble, the hard part is, how can you trust that? How can you let that in and believe it? So that you feel deep down, okay, I don't have brain damage. There isn't anything wrong with me. There isn't anything going on. And for that, I like to use a little tool called Occam's razor. This is a logical perspective that says when there's lots of possibilities, the one that is the simplest is usually right. So let's say you're sitting at your house, you hear a little sound. Could it be a ghost, or could it be the refrigerator? Could it be maybe just some wind outside? Now, if it's the ghost, that would require a complete and utter shift of everything we know about physics and everything you know about reality. So that'd be quite the claim. Or it could be a little wind. Because of Occam's razor, we kind of go with the simpler option. It's the same thing with your health. When you're sitting there and you feel something, yeah, it could be some really, really intense illness or some 1 in a million disease. Or it's probably just something really small, like a little bit of inflammation, a little bit of indigestion, a little bit of muscle soreness, a little bit of mental anxiety. So these are all examples of how you can trick yourself into. Now, another big one is you mentioned how health anxiety can come from these deeper beliefs. Like, how do you describe that, the deeper beliefs part of that?
Deeper beliefs as far as like it's your mind's way of touting you towards something that you want, like fulfilling a need?
Yeah. Like,
is that what you mean?
Well, it's like you don't want to be alone. You don't want to leave your family behind. You don't want to have any unresolved situations. And those are all the deeper aspects of health.
Yeah, so the anxiety behind it, I mean, while the anxiety may be pointed towards the health ailment, it's important to understand why. Why is this, why is there is there a part of me that's so fixated on this one thing that's irrational? And that's typically an indicator of there's something deeper going on underneath there. So some of the common ones are, like, for example, with COVID, I had a lot of clients with a big COVID anxiety, and we would explore it. We would kind of source it down. So if you caught COVID, what would happen? Okay, it means I would get sick. If you got sick, what could happen? Well, it would mean, I might die. Well, if you were to die, what does that mean? And a lot of the times they would find, like, well, it's not even that I would die, it's that I would be alone. Or maybe it was that no one would be there to take care of my kids. Or maybe it was that I have so many things that I've been blowing off and wanted to do that I wouldn't be able to heal these things with my family, or say what I needed to say to my husband, or make my child known that I was proud of them. And so when you source that back, what you actually find is that deeper belief, that deeper unresolved situation. And then it's fairly obvious, what to do about that. After getting in touch with the part of you, and then you can even explore, well, why don't I, tell my kid I'm proud of them? What does it mean to be alone? Why is that so scary for me? Or why am I not, why have I not said what I need to say to my family to resolve that issue? And you can focus your attention on what you need to have. And what you'll find is a lot of time when you focus on that deeper kind of core issue, the COVID anxiety or the health anxiety will subside.
Yeah, so that's a part of the example of how when you're convincing yourself again and again and again that there's something wrong with you, and you're getting really spooked by these small symptoms, oftentimes it's something underlying it. It's not just the fear of death.
Right.
And that's a super common one, but it can also be everything you just mentioned.
Yeah.
So in terms of, new symptoms, that's another common one. When people are going about their day and they start to feel something that they've never felt before, and they don't have an immediate trust that it's going to be okay. Because if you get a headache, there's a certain trust, like, oh, it'll go away like every other headache. Mm-hmm. Or if you get, some pain in your leg, and if you've had a pain in your leg before, then you can trust that it'll be just like last time. But there is this susceptibility when you have a new sensation and you have no reason to explain why you're feeling that way. People jump to conclusions. They go on the internet, they look up the symptom, and they read the first thing. And this happened to me recently even. I had a weird sensation, looked it up, and I was reading this thing. I can't even remember the illness, but it sounded pretty serious. It sounded like a good fit. And as I was reading, I started to feel like more of those symptoms and sensations. And then I laughed at the very end. At the very end of the article, they said, however, this is probably not the case because there's only 5 cases a year.
Yeah.
So it's an extremely rare thing that only happens in like this one country.
So you're reading through it, your mind's making it real because you're stressing yourself out, your mind's manifesting, which is extraordinarily common with people with high anxiety, or that have that degree that their mind can go to. They'll create these real symptoms in their body.
It was hilarious because I was so feeling the actual sensations, like convincing myself of it. And then at the very end, it's like, unless, you're not in this country, or you're one of these 5 people. And I realized, that can't be it.
Yeah.
And all those sensations went away. And that was another good lesson of like, okay, I can really easily convince myself that I have something, even though I do not. And when you start to look at the numbers of how common this is, how possible it is, it kind of hits you that, oh wait, this is almost certainly not the case.
Yeah.
And okay, so we've kind of summarized a couple different things. We've talked about how there's this intense placebo effect that makes you feel like you actually have those symptoms that you're reading about. There's a lot of information out there, so it's easy to, get super focused on the worst case scenario, even though it's very unlikely. You may have a new sensation that you can't explain, so your mind jumps to conclusion. You may have a lot of deeper issues about leaving your family behind or being alone that are triggering these fears, along with the fear of death itself.
And let me cut in. I just want to add that the differentiation between the kind of intelligent and the emotional can be really hard at this point, because a lot of times the emotional can drive the intelligent system of the mind to intensify and accelerate the anxiety. And what that means is, like, you may have this big emotional anxiety towards health, meaning if something happens in your body, you're kind of overwhelmed by an anxious part of you that drives you to do something. And so that anxious part of you drives you to do something, as in like research the symptom or do something. Now, when you talk about symptoms, something like a pain in your side is such a general symptom. And this happens with psychiatric diagnoses all the time, which is there's such an overlap of symptoms and what it could be this or could it be that or anything like that. And I love what you said about Occam's razor. That's typically the most common thing. But as far as the emotional driving the intelligent, what happens when those two start to intensify together is that the intelligent feeds off of the emotional feeds off the intelligent into a feedback loop. Once that feedback loop is going, it's extremely hard to break it if you're in a heavy habit of that. But it's important to know that the emotional is typically a manifestation of your state of anxiety. And this sort of health anxiety is a manifestation that in other people, that anxiety may manifest in a different way. It's just that in you in particular, it's focused on a fear of the health. But people all the time, I mean, you hear of phobias all the time, kind of irrational phobias, just like this one. So it's important to know this is not uncommon. This is not crazy. And that while it feels like it's so real, you're reading the real information on the internet, you have to be able to break that feedback loop to cut this particular specific phobia and anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's easy to feel like it's rational in your brain, because you can find, I mean, when you're talking about health, you can, in the internet, you can find so much that's either discreditable or it's just not, like you said, not in your situation, not what you had at all.
Yeah.
But that your mind can still be rationalizing it.
Mm-hmm.
So breaking that feedback loop at first is the key to understand, wow, I have this anxiety. If you're feeling this real heavy anxiety without proper information from an authority figure, from somebody who's really versed in it, who doesn't know your history and stuff, that's a clear indicator that you have some irrational health anxiety.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so I guess to begin breaking all that down and to give you a sort of method and step-by-step of what to do, I would start by, number one, getting clear on what are the potential benefits that you're getting from that health anxiety. For example, let's say that, if without the health anxiety, you would be a lot more risky. You would eat a lot more unhealthy food. You would, do more drugs. So in a sense, the health anxiety is keeping you living a very clean lifestyle, keeps you very health oriented. With the health anxiety, you're maybe more likely to go to the doctor all the time, maybe get your checkups. Because of the health anxiety, you just care about your body. You're way less likely to, die from some weird accident or consume some unhealthy chemical, like maybe you're all about organic food, maybe you're all about non-GMO. And so maybe there's some very real benefits that you're getting from the health anxiety. It's almost like it's there to help you. Along with that, maybe the potential of having that particular illness might serve some benefits. Maybe if you had that illness that you think you have, it would keep you from going to work, which maybe you hate going to work. If you had that potential illness, maybe it would be a reason to get out of the relationship that you don't want to be in. If you had that potential illness, maybe people would give you attention and care about you more. So there may be some hidden benefits to that health anxiety and to that illness that you might have. So look at that and realize, is there anything here that's keeping me from letting go of this health anxiety and keeping me from letting go of this illness because it serves me? So that's step one, getting clear on that.
Absolutely. And I just want to add to that. I love that because that's a real hard perspective to kind of cultivate in yourself, as far as we talked about the emotional and the intelligent working together. So see if you can just set that aside for a second. And if that part of you is not willing to be set aside, if that emotion, that willingness to question it is not able to be set aside at all, that's a clear indicator that there's a big form of irrationality in there. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Exactly. And once you're clear on that, then you can move on to as Jim was saying, addressing the parts of you that are believing that believe that you need this illness to handle your relationship, that you need this illness to handle your life in some way, that you need this health anxiety to maintain good health. And you don't even necessarily have to get rid of these thoughts and beliefs. You don't have to push them out or fight them in some way. It's enough to just negotiate with them, almost like saying, hey, I understand that these are concerns, and this is now you're talking to yourself. You say, dear me, I will take care of my health, I will handle my relationships, and I'll be okay at this job. But can you turn down the intensity a bit? You don't have to be so intense with these feelings of health anxiety and making me feel sick all the time. I can handle life with maybe half the intensity and still heed your warning and take note of your concern, but without as intensity. So that's one method. And then beyond that, it's really just about being very aware of the thoughts that you're having that are totally irrational. Like, what are you thinking that's just not serving you in terms of an illness that you know is so rare that there's no way you could have had that? Or maybe you are having a sensation that you've had 1,000 times and you know it's nothing, and you've been to the doctor and they've checked you out and you know it's nothing, but you're still believing that despite all odds it's just still the something very serious. So writing all those thoughts down and having them on paper can really help to just see it in clear writing, like, okay, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm believing. Is there anything here that's irrational? Is there anything here that is just not true? And a good test for this is a similar method that we had in a video about money anxiety, is to talk to yourself the way that you would talk to your friend. So for example, let's say a friend comes up to you and says, hey, I think there's this pain in my side. What do you think it is? Would you tell them, you probably have cancer? Or would you tell them it's probably nothing? Yeah. So, and be honest, like what would you really say to your friend? Like if they were actually across from you right now and they look a little concerned, they look a little scared, and you want to help them because you care about them, what would you tell them? Whatever you would tell them, why can't you tell that to yourself? So that's another big method that can be very helpful.
Yeah, I want you to be in that rational, calm, but honest state of mind, meaning you don't want to BS and say, oh, it's nothing. You don't want to be dismissive, but at the same time, you want to be supportive and you want to be loving towards it. Now, we advocate 100%. We should have said this at the beginning of the video. Get checked out. Like if there is something going on and you are worried about it, the first step is definitely get checked out, whether it's emotional or not. If you have a real manifestation and something going on in your body, get checked out immediately. But you have to start to keep track of how often are you getting checked out, and how frequently are you calling your doctor? How many times are you having a feeling and saying, doc, it's back again? And we need you in that kind of calm, confident state of mind to just be able to rationally decide, okay, there's something going on. Because it's easy to be overwhelmed and identify with these thoughts. And what Enes is saying and what we advocate all the time is that don't identify with these thoughts, even if they're really loud, even if they're really ruminating. Notice them and come at them with a lot of curiosity. Like Ennis was saying, if you were to pull this part of you out of your body and it be a friend of yours, this health anxiety, how would you talk to it? How would you connect with it? How would you help it trust you so that you could calm it down? Because this is something that's not just going to magically go away. Beyond that, I would say a key strategy to dealing with this is watching all the auxiliary anxieties that you have. Like, this channeling of anxiety into health can also be supplemented by any other stressful situations you have, any other unresolved situations that you have. Meaning, if you're not taking care of your nervous system, if you have a poor diet, if you're not getting exercise, if you're really, really stressed at work or in your relationship, it can cause your mind to focus on health as the source of the outlet of the stress or to the manifestation of the anxiety. But if you start to work with these other parts of your life that may be out of balance or maybe out of whack, it can really help to disarm and calm down some of that health anxiety.
I love it. I love that. Like you said, rational, calm, and honest. When you can talk to yourself in that way, a lot of things fall into place. So,
and curious.
Yeah, that too. A curiosity about, is this really true? Is that really what's going on? You know, why do I really have to have this anxiety? All of this will help to, again, get clear on what are the potential benefits of having that health anxiety. What are the potential benefits of having that illness? That maybe the reason you're having that illness and that health anxiety is actually because of those deeper reasons. And then from there, what are the irrational thoughts that you're thinking about during those moments of health anxiety that you know are irrational, and that the more that you identify them as irrational, the more they'll let up and kind of clear your thinking. But this is a big topic. We're going to have a lot of more videos about health anxiety and the specifics of how to deal with it coming out soon. In the meantime, just get clear on all that stuff that we mentioned, and keep practicing, keep getting more and more clear. You are not stuck. That's our core message at the end of each video, is you're not stuck. No matter how much it seems that way, no matter how long you've been suffering, this is not a permanent situation. So beyond that, we wish you the best. We hope you feel better soon. And just remember, you're never stuck. You might just need some support.
And guys, if you like what this guy are saying, please like and subscribe below. We're releasing tons of videos. If you have questions, you can email us at ennis@innersolutions.academy or jim@innersolutions.academy, or you can put them in the comments below, and we will look at all of them and answer them. For Ennis, I'm Jim. Thank you guys so much, and good mental health to you.